What up, y'all? We back again with another episode of Straight from the Chair. It's your boy, Marcus Murray, the barber with the bow tie.
And I'm Bryce Davis of Bryce Davis Media.
And we back at you with some more topics talked about in the shop. You know how we do.
Yeah, it's a lot going on in your hometown, man.
LA always hot, man.
Yeah, it definitely is. This time it ain't California fire, trees on fire no more. That's not funny.
It really ain't.
But yeah, there's been raids going on. People are calling it protests. But you know the difference between a protest and a raid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, protest is peaceful. Right. Raid is violent.
A raid is intrusive.
Yeah, yes. So you have the ICE agency. They're raiding the people down there because they have an immigration problem, which a lot of this country's quote unquote have a problem with. But the way they've been going about it's been a little bit crazy, man. They breaking in churches, they breaking in places of work. And on top of that, they don't gotta identify themselves. Like the way that ICE moves is a little different than like law enforcement.
Right.
Like, they can pretty much do what they want when it comes to detaining people. But one of the problems I see, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't be deporting to an extent, I'm just saying like the way they're going about it. One, they got a goal of making 2,000 arrests a day.
Oh, that's a mandate?
Yeah.
Oh, wow,
Trump,
okay.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy. You know, whenever you got numbers involved.
I mean, 2,000 is a lot, but I guess when it comes to his Mexicans, that's not much. You know what I mean?
No,
I'm being silly. I love my essay homies, you know.
Go about doing things the right way, obviously, if you want to stay in the country. But waving Mexican flags while protesting doesn't send the best message if that's the place that you're not trying to go back to.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's anything wrong with waving the Mexican flag, but when you burn the American flag, did you say?
Yeah, I seen a video of the American flag being burnt while the Mexican flag was being raised.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
I've heard somebody on a video say like, yo, it's heritage, it's culture, and you know, all that's fine and dandy. But you got to think about how do they perceive what you're doing?
Man, you're trying to stay in the country where you're burning the flag. I can understand, you know, Palestinians burning an Israeli flag or something in Palestine. You know what I mean? But you can't be a foreigner in the country you want to stay in and burn the country's flag. Where they do that at?
But one of the problems with this is a lot of people don't have violent records. They said 43% of them do not have any criminal background. And that was the whole point of ICE coming down there was to get the
right.
Yeah, not just
honestly, man, outside of gangbanging, if Mexicans are doing any criminal activity, it's against themselves. You know what I mean? It's like black folks. We're not going out after the oppressor. You know what I mean? We hurting each other. We keeping the trauma within our own space, unfortunately. You know what I mean? And I think that's the same with them. Mexicans, you can't deny that they come out here to get to that bag. You know,
100%.
They get to that bag. Unfortunately, you know, but fortunately, my dad was an illegal alien. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna have to check him.
And listen, I'm a citizen, but my dad wasn't made rest in power. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can't be mad at anybody trying to make things better for themselves and their family, man. Especially when they're not infringing on anyone else's freedoms or rights. I don't feel like it's our fight, though, politically and socially or racially. It doesn't have anything to do with us, if that's what you're asking.
But the last point I want to drive, and that ties in what you said about it not being our fight, is we all heard about the New York stop and frisk, where they was frisking a lot of people, and they wasn't committing no crimes, they had nothing on them, but it was targeting minorities.
Right.
So this could be a possible step towards that, to where it's like, oh, you look a certain way, so let me go mess with you. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, man, automatic. You know, Trump been saying he was going to build a wall and evict Mexicans since day one. You know what I mean? So, and from what I understand, I think 23% were Latin votes. 20% of his votes were Latinas, Latino men, male Lat. So it's crazy for you guys to not know that he wasn't going to keep his word. Like, Why did you vote this guy in?
Hey, shout out to them, man. Well, I want to stay at LA just a little bit longer, man. The BET Awards happened in 2025. And shout out to Jason Hampton, man. He went up there representing Dayton. But Kai Cenat and Kendrick Lamar. So Drewski was with Kai Cenat.
Right.
And Kai kept interacting with Kendrick. And you can see the look on Drewski's face that he wasn't acknowledging, looking Kendrick's way, none of that. Because we all know that if you're one of Drake's friends and he catches you being friendly with Dot, it's over with.
Right.
That connection's gone. So that made me think, like, what's loyalty look like? Like, do you personally get mad at your friends when they're friends with your enemies? Like, how far does that go for you?
Well, I mean, you know, I come from a place where there's always rivals, there's always enemies, there's always ops. You know what I mean? Like growing up in LA. But fortunately, I was able to be raised with some real ones, you know. It depends on the offense, I guess. Like, I'm not kicking it with somebody I knew killed the homie's brother. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing.
That's extreme.
You know, but that kind of thing, I don't know that I would be mad, my nigga. This a rap battle. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If a nigga beat up, like if I don't know if I can kick it with somebody that beat up my homie. Or you know what I mean? Or kick it with, I don't know if I have a problem with my homie kicking it with somebody that beat me up. You know what I mean? Like, cause that's the equivalent of Drake and Kendrick Lamar.
See, there's something about that though. Like a lot of people get bothered by that. But I had a new perspective the older I got was if somebody's willing to do things that you consider crossing you, they're not as close to you as you thought they were. That's something that I never realized.
Right.
Because like when I was younger, 48 Laws came out when I was like in high school. I want to say 50 Cent endorsed it publicly. So in my head, it was like, oh yeah, if you're cool with somebody I don't like, then you got to go too, because at some point you're probably going to cross me too. But then you're going to seclude yourself from a lot of people doing that.
Right.
And I learned that, you know, the hard way, the older I got, you know, so.
But then Cuz might be on payroll too, though. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, for sure.
He ain't trying to fuck up the bag. I'm not
mad at it.
He ain't trying to fuck up the bag. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's Father's Day weekend. And, you know, it's not celebrated as Mother's Day, obviously, but
you know,
it is what it is.
But the thing is, it's not celebrated because fathers don't really celebrate it.
Right.
Collectively. Like, we want to be celebrated, but we don't celebrate it, if that makes sense.
No, it makes total sense. It's just like how marriage is more for women as far as the ceremony.
Right.
You know, men, we're not as open, and, you know, that's more of a woman thing.
Right.
How would you say over the years the role of a father's changed since?
Well, as fatherhood, I want to say it's coming back around. I think fatherhood is becoming more popular.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's less socially acceptable than not to be.
Right. I think with especially this new generation that's having kids, either they're having kids or they're not, but the ones that are having kids, they're taking this shit serious. I'm seeing dads by themselves with their kids. I mean, take you for example. You know, you and your daughter. I mean, you have custody of your daughter. You know what I mean? So a lot of that, I'm starting to see a lot of that happening more and more.
Well, before that was unheard of. Like, you didn't think that you could get it. I think it shifted a little bit to now fathers feel like they have a shot if the other side may not be as suitable as they are to take care of the child.
Right. I think fatherhood has always been important. It's just society had for a little bit, for a good, I want to say 40 years maybe, that's what, 4 generations, they've put into the works a system where we've been booted out of the situation because we can't find work and the woman can't get benefits unless we're out of the house. So it's better to kick the man out and get them benefits than to struggle with a nigga.
Oh yeah, that was one of the suggestions made why the nuclear family's not as together. One of the things I heard was assistance drives families apart. Because it's like, yo, but women are also making money now, more money now. So there's a lot of things I think that contribute.
But they're also conditioned to being a single mom too.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. How many times you heard a woman say, yo, I can't wait to have a baby, or I want to have a kid soon? I've heard this going out on dates.
Right.
I'm just looking like, there's not a single thought in your mind that made you say, I want a boyfriend or husband, like a long time.
Right.
You just think about having a kid. You're not thinking about the person you're raising with. Like your goal is just the kid, not the father that comes with the kid. But it's so expected now to be a single parent that nobody thinks long term into, man, I can't wait to have a husband. What can I bring towards the husband? It's just, I just want to have a kid soon. And, that mindset.
Well, that's that conditioning.
Yeah.
That's that conditioning.
Have you had any struggles with your work-life balance and being a father? I know yours don't live with you, but there is a demand sometimes, like with you being busy.
Nah, honestly, I be trying to fight for time for real with my kids, man. I'm a barber, so that's a blessing. Like I make my own schedule. You know what I mean? Like, so I can make my schedule to be whatever I want so that I can spend as much time with my kids as possible. Now my kids are older now. There was never a time my struggle was with getting them. You know what I mean? Like, if I knew then what I know now, but
did you ever deal with like guilt that came with that? Like, was there ever?
Yeah, man. Like, I did a little time. So I think anytime a man who wants to be intentional in his kid's life miss out on any part of their life, there's a certain level of guilt there. You know what I mean? A certain level of inadequacy.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because like if I would have had this together, I wouldn't have missed out so much.
Right.
Yeah, I could see that.
And then, if even and it could not even be something as extreme as jail time. It could be something as minor as low emotional IQ to where you not allowing yourself to relate to your baby mama because she gonna get on your nerve. You probably gonna get on her nerve. You know what I mean? But if you define the word relate, anything that's dysfunctional is not a relationship. You know what I mean? So anything that is disconnecting you from connecting is not a relationship. A relationship is a total connection by definition. So looking back, if you're a man who think, man, I should have humbled myself to the situation so I could have spent more time with my kids, you're going to feel some level of guilt. You're in a good position because you've won the right to be the sole custodial parent of your child. No disrespect to any women, but men can keep order in the household when it comes to kids a lot.
Way better.
You know what I mean? Way better. Yeah.
Yeah, I hate how we minimize the role of a father when it's like statistically they do better with the father.
Right.
Like, once they hit, like you got a teenager or a boy that's becoming a teen, send them off with the dad.
Right. I say by the time the boy hits 9 years old,
or that,
you know what I mean? By 8 or 9, you should be prepared to send your son to live with his dad. As long as his dad has a roof over his head, he ain't got to be balling.
Yeah.
As long as his dad has a roof over his head.
And that might be why I don't feel as much guilt when I miss out on things with my daughter. When I say miss out, it's a different type of miss out.
Right.
But I think that's why, because since I contribute so much time, it's times where, let's say I'll be working a long time and, she may be fighting for my attention.
Right.
And, I don't give it to her, but that just comes with being a quote unquote single parent. You know what I mean? Like, there's gonna be where you fall short at because the other side's not there. And that falls on either side.
I was just reading something, I think it was in 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. I think that's the name of it. He was describing a story where a friend's dad chose to not go to work over kicking it with the kids, and that kind of set a tone for their relationship because his dad used to always go to work and he didn't want to be like his dad type shit. Okay. So as long as it's not a habit, as long as she's not used to being shooed away, that's cool. You know what I mean? But I think the young age, they have to kind of have the equal balance, They gotta know that I love you, but they gotta know when to sit the fuck down too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they gotta learn that young, so it's not a problem when they're older.
Learn when the attention is valuable.
Right.
But like yesterday, I was doing what they call the death scroll. I was on Facebook a little bit longer than I was supposed to be, and I came across this post about single moms, right? and it's something I never thought about, but the term single mother and what it means to be a single mother versus a single parent. And as bad as I wanted to side with us fellas, I couldn't understand the logic behind it. But I saw dudes try to say that a single mother is somebody to where the father is completely uninvolved. And that didn't make sense to me, because if a mother has a child and she's not with the dad and she's getting help from the dad, to me that's still a single mom, even if she's getting help. Like, if they don't live together, I still see that as a single mom. I don't know if you ever seen or heard any of this, where guys are trying to say you're not a single mom if you get help from the dad, or if you have a boyfriend, you're not a single mom. You said you're not?
So
okay,
you're not. No.
Okay.
So because you got to define, what does it mean to be a single mom? You know, single by definition of unwedded, yes.
Right.
Yes. But you're not single in the fact that you're the only one caring for the kids. So how is it interpreted? I had a friend that I had to clarify that with, because she was divorced. You know what I mean? And her husband, I think he pretty much had custody of the kids, but they were pretty much more at her house. You know what I mean? But he had custody of them.
Okay.
But she would consider herself a single mom, and I'm like, you're not a single mom. You know what I mean?
Right.
By definition, you're a divorcee, you're a divorced mom, and then your husband takes care of the kids. So she really didn't think of it like that until I pointed that out, and she was like, "Yeah, I guess you're right. I can't."
So, is there a line to you? Like, is it a thin line between what we call a single mom and not single mom? Because it just seemed like more like a blurred line to me than anything.
Define the term single mom. Let's see what Google says.
Okay.
A woman who is raising her child or children alone, typically without a co-parent or partner residing in the household.
Okay, so they were right in saying that if she's doing it on her own, then she's a quote-unquote single mom,
But it's a contradiction, because it further says this often means the woman is divorced, widowed, separated, or unmarried, and may have sole or joint custody of her children. So if you have joint custody, you're not a single mom. You can be a divorced mom whose dad, you're single because you're the sole caregiver and the dad isn't helping.
So if a mom has a boyfriend, she can still go around saying I'm a single mom if she has a real live boyfriend?
Not if the boyfriend is taking care of the kids.
Okay, fair enough.
You know?
Okay.
Is she still single by unwedded stats? You know what I mean? You're not married, or as opposed to being single to married, she's not married, so she's single. But you know, most women say, you know, that's what honey buns say. I'm single until I'm married. You know what I mean?
And what's interesting is me as a dad with his kid and whatnot. I don't think I've ever used that term in a sentence before. Like, consider myself a single dad. Like, I don't think I've ever described myself as a single dad. I mean, technically I am, but I don't think I've ever used that. I don't know. I think I kind of view it a certain way, like I'm trying to use it as leverage by saying that. I'm not sure.
I think that's a part of the programming of the agenda, the single mom.
I didn't just say you're a mom.
Phenomenon.
Like, say, well, I know, say you don't mess with the dating apps, but when you're on there, that's like in every woman's bio is like single mom, and like I'd rather you not even mention that, because now I feel like you're gonna use that as a way to like kind of leverage the situation.
How?
Sympathy.
How? For what?
Easy. The ex is a narcissist, so my baby dad left me here to take care of this kid alone. So if you come and we join worlds together, just know I come with a little extra. You'll always be number two, even though if you follow the Bible, I believe it says to put your man as number one. But in the bio, they're going to say kids
no. She actually has to put God first and then you. Okay. So yeah, you're always number two. We're always number two to God. I mean, if you know, we're always number two to God. So the hierarchy, the divine order is God, man, woman, children. So man puts God first, then he goes to his woman, then the child. The woman puts God first, then she goes to the man, then she, you know what I mean?
So the child shouldn't come before the man.
No.
Because we hear that all the time. My kid's always going to come first. And I'm not mad at that, but if it's a real long-term situation, I don't know about that one.
I hate when people state the obvious. What are you saying that for? Like, what are your? So I'm gonna ask you. So what? What is your point for telling me that? But I'm not expecting you to put your kids before me. If I'm going to join, if I'm choosing you to be my wife or my girlfriend, I'm choosing your child too.
Yeah.
So I'm choosing you and your child. I gotta choose two. You only has to choose one. You know what I mean? Slow that shit down.
Hey, but on top of that, though, when the man's number one, the man's always going to be reciprocal. So, I don't know if you heard the story of like, who do you feed between the man, the woman, or the kids first if you're out in the wild? And it's like you feed the man so that he has the energy to go hunt.
Right.
So that's the way I see things. Is if the man's put
That's funny because I was thinking about that.
Yeah.
It's a good a green flag when a woman has a great relationship with her dad because she understands the man's position. I heard. Have you ever heard of logo therapy?
No.
Me and the lady are reading 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I was reading something this morning, and it just so happened to kind of relate to what we was talking about, just mental health and what people should realize about it. So there's this cat, Frankel. He was a Jew back in the days of the German torture chambers when Hitler was around. So he spent some time in there, and he developed a theory to maintain his sanity. The therapy was called logotherapy. And what it does is it's supposed to eliminate the emptiness that we feel inside by detecting our unique and meaningful mission. So you got to find, do you have a personal mission statement?
No.
No? Do you know what that is?
No.
We'll come back to that. So it's important that we all have a personal mission statement. Everybody has one, but they probably don't even know it. Family first is a mission statement. The way he so-called maintained his mental health is by identifying mental illness. And he identified so-called mental and emotional illness as being symptoms of an underlying sense of meaninglessness and emptiness in an individual. So mental illnesses come from you feeling like you have no purpose or no meaning inside, feeling like you have emptiness inside. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, the Bible talks about how if you don't stand for anything, you'll be thrown to and fro like the wind. That's just like being empty inside. If you don't have nothing holding you down, you'll float away. I'm being humorous and metaphorical at the same time, but for those of us who are dealing with certain problems, mental illness, start at personal purpose. Define it. I told my son one day, and this is a revelation I had. Maybe the Most High gave it to me because he knew I was going to be talking to my son. But he was telling me how he didn't know what he wanted to do. He's at that age. He's about to be 22. Yeah. He didn't go to finish college. He's a hard worker, but he wants purpose. He says, I don't know how to find my purpose. And I'm like, sometimes you can't wait on purpose to find you. You got to claim it. You got to pick something. Pick it and claim it and stand in it. You know what I mean? Just like you pick a woman. You know what I mean? That's the woman you pick to be yours. If you live in a monogamous lifestyle where you only are dealing with one woman, then you pick her and you stay with her and you work it out. You know what I mean? Even if you're living a polygynous lifestyle where you have more than one wife, you pick them, you stay in it. You don't pick them, and when shit gets rough, you dip. You pick the situation because you've claimed it as your purpose, and you fulfill your purpose by mastering it. I don't know. I kind of got
church, man.
You know what I mean? I don't know where that came from, but
yeah.
On some mental illness though, man. Sometimes, and I'm a avid cannabis You know what I mean? I smoke weed, man, and sometimes I smoke weed to just get away from this shit. We can't rely on that, man. That can't be a coping mechanism. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because what are you getting away from? When the high come down, it's still right here. You know what I mean? Whatever it is you're trying to get away from. So we gotta, stand on business 10 toes down, man. You know what I mean? We gotta address, assess, and process. You know what I mean? And then be intentional about resolution. You know what I mean? To be a man means to man the fuck up, man. And as difficult and challenging as it might seem, once you get into it and you discipline yourself, you'll work through those inadequacies and that emptiness that we think we feel inside. Since we at the end of the show, I'm gonna start hitting with the barber tips at the end of the show. And this one is referrals, man. You know what I mean? If you like your barber, refer a friend. Tell somebody. Share the wealth. You know what I mean? Barbers love referrals. We love it when, especially if you're someone who don't tip. That's a good way to tip. I mean, because you might not be able to afford a tip. So the best way you can show love is tell somebody and actually bring them to the appointment. Like, come with me, bro. You need a cut. You got a coworker that you know that really don't get cut as often as you. You know, tell them, man, I'm gonna take you to my barbershop. I think you'll like my barber, bro, and go from there. So that's the barber tip from the day. Referrals, man. The word of mouth is the best way to promote a barber.
Yeah, and you can even tag them on Facebook.
That too.
That's what I do. So
that do. Bring them into the shop though. That's
anything helps.
Right.